keep this thing moving along, man. Let's talk about this, man. That kind of hit the team, man. So Juwan Johnson, 3 new injuries at Saints camp that happened today. And it's just not good, right? 3 injuries hit the team here in training camp. Shout out to Canal Street Chronicles. Training camp started great for the Saints. One of the reasons for that has been the avoidance of injury. So far, JT Gray was the first player to go down with an injury. The hope was that the injury bug would not start to spread. We've seen this in the past with the Saints, and if it can get scary. It seems that Gray's injury was minor, and he should be back soon. But 3 players were now dealing with injuries. Juwan Johnson is one of them. So you can see right here, a shout out to Nick Underhill. He says, Trayton Welch, Juwan Johnson, and Ridgeway got hurt in practice. It's definitely not the news you want to hear as you hear some of these guys get hurt. So the play, and of course we recognize like the tight end group was, what's up, Bev? Shout out to Beverly. Much love, Bev. Good to see you in the chat as well. Yeah, it's interesting, man, how we see some of these cats, man. You know, it's unfortunate, like the what's up, Tim? The Saints is really weird, right? The Saints tight end room had bunch of people. It was Juwan Johnson, Foster Monroe, Taysom Hill, right? Couldn't count Taysom. We know Taysom was hurt. Thought you was going to get Foster back. Both of them on the pup. So Taysom and Foster on the pup. Then you had Jake Stahl, the tight end that caught a handful of catches right throughout his career. He's mostly a blocking guy. You have the 7th-round draft pick Matavo. You got Trayton Welch. You had Michael Jacobson, and you had another guy. So now Juwan Johnson's banged up. You got Foster Monroe and Taysom Hill listed as tight ends are out on the pup list. Then you got Trayton Welch, who is one of the tight ends on the back of the depth chart. And the Saints, man, is getting rough. It's getting kind of hectic for the Saints in the tight end room. And it almost looks like, we might have to go back and see what old boy want for, what kind of money old boy want who was just here. I don't know how how serious this stuff is, but man, it usually limits what you're going to do and kind of gives you more of a conservative approach with some of these guys, especially your best tight end in Juwan Johnson. So let's get into it. He suffers worrisome injury during training camp. Juwan Johnson's groin injury adds to the Saints tight end concerns, although he's expected back in a few days. A groin issue is always a problem. The Saints face a potentially tricky situation as the depth to the tight end position dwindles, with Juwan Johnson suffering another setback during Wednesday's training camp practice. Johnson, who signed a 3-year, $30 million extension this season, left the season with a session with a groin injury, later reported as not serious. He expected to only miss a handful of days, right? The schedule worked slightly in his favor. The Saints held one final padded practice on Thursday before a day off on Friday. And if Johnson responds well to treatment, he could return to the field as early as Saturday. Still, the tight end unit was depleted. Even the shorter absence further raises concern. So Jordan Schultz says Juwan left practice, as you can see right there. And then you drop some of the particulars. Now, both Foster Monroe, Taysom Hill remain on the physically unable to perform list, and veterans Trayton Welch also left Wednesday with unspecified injury that left the team with only 4 tight ends: Jake Stahl, Seth Green, Michael Jacobson, and Maliki Matavo, all fighting for a roster spot. Stahl made the most of his opportunity, catching several passes from Jake Haney during team drills. So there you go. Saints running a tight end room is getting hit with the injury bug early on. And, it's just too bad. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, the good news is that Juwan Johnson's injury is not what you would consider serious, and they're expecting them back. But yeah, let me tell you something. When you got groin issues like that popping up, man, you kind of got to watch that thing, man, because that has an opportunity to create problems depending on how you treat it moving forward, right? And we don't need none of that going on. So it is what it is currently. All right, anyway, and that's just a few of the things right there to talk about. And speaking of which, tight end position, let's talk about this one here from the Saints Wire, as it talks about insider shares the latest intel on 2 Saints free agent targets. This is Jeremiah Trotter of the Saints Wire. Shout out to them. And it's basically talk about what Nick Underhill's interview he did not too long ago with Ian Rappaport. And Ian Rappaport, the insider for the Saints, among many other teams, were talking about some of the recent visits of players like Noah Fant and cornerback Asante Samuel. His thoughts on these 2 people moving forward and how ultimately these guys impact the Saints. So He said, okay, well, first of all, Noah Fant, he's taken some visits. He's got some interest. I would say there's a couple of different places he looked at. Obviously, this is one of them. Point to the Saints facility behind him. Miami has a void at the tight end. I wonder about that one. That seems to make sense to me, but he's pretty good. He's a pretty good player who's available this time of the year. Like he's going to get some money. So that's some of the stuff that we did talk about. Like when he left, people was asking, okay, what happened? Well, that was a part of it. You don't usually see a tight end. Very rarely you'll see a tight end like a Noah Fant, a pretty good young prospect in the prime of his career, get put in the street. And then ultimately, you see at that time where he got put in the street. So most of the teams already got their rosters pretty much made up going into camp. So maybe a handful of them might be having not only the position, but the money to be able to play or pay a guy like a Noah Fant who wants the money as well as the years and perhaps the opportunity to be the guy, right? Wants to be the guy, maybe not a compliment to another starter. So the Saints do like Noah Fant, but Noah Fant is kind of doing his own thing right now. So anyway, to carry that through, in regards to Shante Samuel Jr., Rappaport emphasized that his situation doesn't come down to money so much as it is health after the cornerback underwent neck surgery back in April. He says, quote, Shante Samuel Jr. is different because he's a really good player who would have been a top free agent dealing with a little bit of a medical issue and had surgery, neck, I believe it is, and just has to get healthy. So like that's someone who I think he says, I don't know how much money he's going to make, but that's someone could buy pretty low. And if healthy wise, it works out. If he gets clear, he's an excellent player who would help any defense, right? The Ashanti Samuel thing, like we talked about, the Saints met with him. And of course he has, he's familiar with Staley, DC. So what does that mean, right? Well, it kind of, if Ashanti Samuel is that guy, right, that would kind of put us in the mind frame of what we've seen, not exactly, but the neck injury. We had a guy that was here, it worked out for him, right? A man that had a history of being injured, came on a 1-year prove-it deal, had surgery on his neck after he signed the deal, gambled on himself, and ultimately got the money. I'm talking about Chase. I'm talking about Chase. So Chase Young was able to do his thing. Can Ashanti Samuel, who had neck surgery, come to New Orleans and on a prove-it deal and an opportunity to learn or earn more? The longer you wait, it could be problematic because more reps are happening for the Saints DB, and you're seeing Quincy Riley getting interceptions. And Quincy Riley is steadily making a name for himself in there. So that's what I'm saying, man. If you're one of these type of players, if you're healthy and you can pass the physical, you don't want to wait too long. you don't want to wait too long to catch on to a position, i.e. like a Justin Blackmon. When Tyrann Mathieu retired, Blackmon was there the same day or the next day. It was something instantaneously. Like when Tyrann retired, and then the same day or the next day, Blackmon is signed to come in here, and then he's getting interception. He got interception in camp, making plays and making himself stand out, showing that, hey, man, just give me the opportunity, right? That's a part of it. So when camp hits, you're already behind because guys are already competing and they have the eyes of the coaches. So the coaches and the evaluators can only evaluate who they have. So if Ashanti Samuel is ready to go, man, camp would be good. And then again, there are others that wait until camp is over with and then get in once the cut's happening. And they kind of scan up and down who's available and they feel like this guy can step in. But then again, if that is indeed the case, you're still behind the 8 ball because other guys have that much time on you. So we'll see what it all ends with Ashanti Samuel Jr. But either one, Noah Fant or Ashanti Samuel Jr. would be big helps to the Saints offense and defense. No doubt about it. Fant would definitely be a big asset, a big red zone weapon, a physical player with a degree of athleticism that would help out. Also provide safety blanket, a double safety blanket for our young quarterback. He playing off of Juwan Johnson. If Juwan Johnson has an injury, and Noah Fant can step in there and do his thing, right? We don't know, even though we had a report of Taysom working off to the side, we don't know how close Taysom is to actively contributing for the Saints offense. Foster Monroe's another guy that's banged up, So whoever you get, and the Saints ain't jostling with no money. They got $20-something million of cap right now. So the other guys, we'll see. We'll see what Ashanti Samuel's doing. We know Noah Fant had took a visit to the Miami Dolphins recently, and he went to Cincinnati, he went to Saints, he went to Miami, and he's trying to see if he can find the best deal. And a lot of people, and even Rapport said that, and there was a few other guys that also mentioned insiders think that Noah Fant might sign with the Miami Dolphins. So because of their tight end situation, I think they were able to Darren Waller, the tight end that killed the Saints that used to play with the Raiders. He was a guy that they brung down there. They got a few other inexperienced tight ends, and Noah Fant's thinking, man, I can upgrade that whole tight end situation down there. So there are a few other people that probably look more attractive from that standpoint as far as the tight end position going. Could be a little bit more money. So regardless or not, man, we just gonna keep an eye out on that thing. So anyway, man, it's looking pretty promising right now, man, to talk about it. So Juwan Johnson is okay. That's a good deal. We'll see what Jonathan Mendoza means to the Saints line. I really don't know. I was looking at footage of him playing. He's solid. He's just unproven. He's an unproven commodity, and you never know how that's gonna sway, right? All right. Anyway. All right, let's go on to the Who Dat Nation, man, in the comments and questions in the chat. Shout out to you, dog. What's up, T Dirty? Shout out to my brother T Dirty in the building. Appreciate you as well. All right, yeah. KT saying, what's up, Bullet Family Travel Vlog? What's up, brother Philip? All right, he says, man, they really are going to need Noah Fant. Yeah, I hear you on that, bro. It's a matter of competing for a better team. I mean, in terms of position, the tight end position. I mean, we already invested in a guy like Juwan Johnson, who's the TE1, $30 million. I think his contract is ranked 12th among the NFL tight ends. So the Saints already made their bones. Fant might feel like he is a Juwan Johnson type. Now, I haven't compared the statistics together to see if his stats, I think they're about what stat-wise, but he might feel like he's a $10 million tight end. He might feel, and I doubt the Saints are going to do that twice. I don't know if they're going to do that twice. They're looking at Matabo as the future, so we'll see how that all plays. Philip says, I got no problem with Jake. Maybe Kellen can take him to the next level because he always looks good in practice, and maybe even Kellen is the missing piece. You never know. Good coaching makes a hell of a difference with some of these players, right? We know that all players and all coaches are not created equally, right? We all realize that. Like I said, man, what Kellen Moore could be able to do with a team, the Saints, most of these guys coming in on the scheme change, offensively, what they got going on, defensively, what they got going on, special teams wise, there's a lot of flux. So as comfortability, a lot of teams, a lot of players are, had from these last 4 years, they don't have that. You got to show the new coaches that you're worth contract that you have, right? As opposed to what you've been doing before. So you got all these new people here. You got to show up and show out again. So a lot of movement in terms of people, like how it was when some of these teams were stale and they've been doing the same thing over and over again. They got a little stale. Now you kind of got freshness, a new coach in the building is shaking everything up, so it's pretty cool to see that, man, too. KT says, can Cedric Wilson Jr. work out another wide receiver? Can we Cedric Wilson Jr. and work out? You mean cut? Is that what you're saying, KT? Can we cut Cedric? I don't think the Saints going to do that right now, brother. They ain't going to cut Cedric Wilson Jr. because Cedric Wilson Jr. Is a guy that Kellen Moore is familiar with, right? He's familiar with Cedric Wilson Jr. And it could be said just like Philip said about one of the family members just mentioned about Jake Hayner. But if it's just coaching, better coaches can unlock these guys and they can thrive better in a different system. Perhaps the guy just didn't know how to utilize them. He didn't know how to speak to these players. We all know these coaches are different, right? But if that's the case with Cedric Wilson Jr., we knew in the past Cedric Wilson Jr. had some productive years. What happened last year? Right? He had some injuries and stuff like that. He looked bad enough. I was saying for him to get cut last year. But him knowing Kellen from the previous regime, maybe that is something that can kind of have a resurrection, so to speak, or him to be revitalized or rejuvenated in Kellen Moore's system. You see what I'm saying? Because he's a senior member of the system. Them veteran years got to count for something, right? People want to see Bub Means take the step because Bub has speed, physicality. They won't see Bub takes the step. But Cedric Wilson is on the outside looking in. He got to be, depending on how many they keep. Most people think they'll be 5. If they keep 6, he might have a chance. But outside of that, man, if they keep five, I think the top three guys, Bub Means and Dante Pettis. And I say Pettis because Pettis the returner. He'll make it because of the returner. And that's my five I think the Saints keep unless injuries impact them and things shift up before they make the final say. But that's just my little early estimation on it. All right, Marley Mall. Shout out to my boy Marley Mall. Pelicans. Nola is in that thing, man, as well. Yes, as he said, the same old injury story. Nah, not the same old, not just yet. You know, JT Gray, the report is promising on JT Gray. The report is promising on Juwan Johnson. So not so much right now. And if stuff like that happen, you want to be able to, you prefer for it to happen early on as opposed to it happening later on. You see what I'm saying? You won't get ahead of it. So I can understand why people be like, hey, man, here we go again. Here we go again. King Eternal says Juwan Johnson does not surprise me. I tried to hold my tongue on the topic, but he's always hurt. I think, yeah, the Saints kind of, I ain't gonna say rolling the dice because they've seen enough of Juwan Johnson. And what I'm saying by that is that we had all this time, right, to watch Juwan Johnson rise up through the ranks as an undrafted wide receiver in his first year, then being converted to a tight end in his second year at the bottom of the depth chart, then rising up from the bottom of the tight end depth chart to ultimately becoming tight end one and earning the contract. That's a respectable thing because it takes a certain amount of heart, dedication, and consistency and thoroughness to get to that point, right? Then now that you secured the bag, so to speak, now it's time for you to secure your legacy. Can Juwan Johnson become one of the best Saints that ever was? Now, we know Juwan Johnson can catch. We know that he can run routes. We know he needs to work on his goddamn blocking. That's a part of the game that I was just steadily upset with Juwan Johnson with last year is that his blocking is not good as it's supposed to be. It is what he can be a lot better in his blocking. He's a big old tight end. He needs to do better in his blocking. But outside of that, Juwan Johnson is a guy that if you throw him the ball, he gon', if it's a tough throw, he gonna catch it. If it's an easy throw, it's a 50-50 shot because he do suffer with concentration drops. He'll catch the most difficult ones, but drop the simpler ones. Like it'll be one where he go out on a short curl, a little comeback route for 3 yards, and you throw him the ball and they drop in his hand because he trying to find out what's around him before he catches the ball. Secure the ball, catch it, secure it, turn, and get what you need to get, right? You could power through. Big tight end usually take two people to drag him down, right? If he squares up and go north to south or whatever you need him to do to pick up the yardage, right? That's something that we've seen that Juwan Johnson has done that needs to be worked upon. And a lot of people believe that now that he getting $10 million a year over the next several years or next 3 years, that means that stops. A top 10 tight end, I'm not saying that he is, but he should be inside the conversation of being one of the top 10 best tight ends in the NFL. He should be in that conversation because he's getting paid like one of the top 10, even though he's ranked 12th in his salary in the NFL at his position. So it's no more concentration drops because they gave you the bag. It's time for you to level up and then secure yourself as one of the best tight ends in the game. There was a time a couple years ago, y'all remember, when he had like 7 touchdown catches and he was like number 2 or something like that in the NFL in TDs as a tight end. He was up there with Kelson, Kittles and guys like that. His receptions were way low versus that, but his touchdowns was up there. He was in that conversation. And that was like, okay, we see what you're doing, but he has to elevate to that position to be a force. Could you imagine what he could be if he was to live in that rarefied air like you see a Kittles or a Kelsey? You see what I'm saying? Or even one of these other young tight ends that be killing the Saints. Even, that money says he's supposed to be in that type of rarefied air. Imagine if he turns into that and give you that from the tight end position, how far the Saints can go. Because he would be a safety blanket for whether it's whether it's Shuck or Spencer. They need a security blanket at the tight end position, a guy they can rely on. So like I said, man, we'll see what Juwan Johnson has, but it's time for all them concentration jobs and that sorry ass blocking we seen last year. That got to change, bro. You got that money. People, you have elevated expectations. Screw what that Loomis guy is saying. Oh, line now, Q. Oh, line. We don't deal with expectations. Oh, God damn it. Oh, what? That stuff is for outside the building. That's expectations from outside the building. We know they're not qualifying. That's guys that's not qualifying. Man. That kind of stuff. No. No expectations, because it's the same damn thing. You don't separate them. It's the same thing. Whether you have whether you have goals, inspirations, motivations, or expectations, it all is supposed to all end at the same place, which is success. Because it's the same damn thing. I don't know no people outside of the building that want their team to win that ain't talking success. That ain't talking about, hey man, we need to be the NFC South. We're not in the juggernaut division where we can't beat these people. Oh, now, Q, they're not qualified. All right. Well, to give them the website, Mickey, so they can go there and buy your qualifications. Always trying to test somebody not qualified. Y'all remember that? He said that recently. Well, that's just somebody outside. They're not qualified. Oh, really? He said that about the reporter. The reporters are not qualified. They ain't qualified. Okay, Mickey. I hear you, brother. I hear you. Ain't qualified. Man, would you stop it? Remember how Lamont used to tell, would you stop? Lamont used to tell Fred when he do something stupid. He said, would you stop it? That's what you need to tell Mickey Loomis. That's what he needed. Would you stop it? Because that's foolish talk that you're talking about. Regardless or not, whatever you have, it got to be successful. Because the Saints, a great deal of the Who Dat Nation is not going to support something that's a failure. They're not going to do it because it don't make no sense. We've been doing that for years. So you add up all the other stuff that we've been doing for years since the 60s when the team stepped on the scene. Now, granted, the team was promoted and supported by the family base for 20 years before they even have a winning season. So you can't tell them people shit about supporting no team. They've been doing it before they even got a winning season. It took 20 years to get there. Who wait 20 years? We did 20 damn years for one winning season. Oh my goodness. Oh, you talking about diehards? Oh yeah, that you die hard doing that type of shit. We died hard doing it. Enough is enough. We ain't dying hard no more. We living right, baby. We ain't dying hard, baby. We living good, baby. That's what it is. We no more die hard bullshit for the Saints. No, win. God damn it, win. It's time to win. Y'all got everything. We gave you all the money. We done fixed your damn buildings. That's our buildings for free. We done put up with all your bullshit. We done hear Mickey Loomis sit up here and tell people they're not qualified and all this. And all this kind of stuff. What more you want? You know what I'm saying? What more you want from the people? There ain't no more we gonna give you. It's time for you to win. That's the bottom line. Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts to it.